But we were trying to build community. So we didn't have a big arts community, but we really wanted one. And I think because of where I came to art from, I really think it's important to create access in art, and that like everyone can do art.
Yeah.
I don't want people to look inside of a gallery and think, oh, I could never do that. Like, I really try to plant the seed a lot that everyone can do art.
Welcome to What's My Thesis. I'm Javier Proenza, and today my guest is Frannie Hemmelgarn, director of DMST Atelier.
Mm-hmm.
Do I say that word correctly? It's French.
We love how people say it. People will say Atelier, Atelier.
Yeah, Atelier sounds like outlier, which I dig.
Yeah, we kind of like living in that space where people don't.
But how do you say it?
Right. DMST Atelier.
Okay, cool. Because I've been part of a collective where most of the members were Anglo, and the collective's name was in Spanish, and they could not say it, and it would drive me fucking insane. I'm not gonna say what it was though. Well, cool. So you tell me a little bit about the Atelier. You guys, I've mostly just seen the after hour side of it. That was what you and Kim also did, right?
Our show was not an after hours show.
Oh, okay.
But definitely had after hours people. So,
Yeah. Okay, so you guys, it's basically a space in, is that, we talked about this, is that technically West Adams, or is it like?
I say mid-city.
Mid-city?
Yeah.
Okay.
Washington, between La Brea and Crenshaw.
All right.
Yeah, and we started in downtown, actually.
Which I was running. I was going to Artisan Craftsman Supply that's on 7th.
Perfect.
So it was not, it didn't put me out. I'm not guilt tripping you when I say this, but yeah, I ended up going to your old space, and it still has the sign up.
This is a PSA for people not to use Apple Maps.
Or you could update your Apple
Or we could update that. I will get Moon on that. Good reminder. We
it's
are
good
now
to know
in
you
Mid-City.
haven't fixed that yet.
Yeah, that's what happens
when you have a show coming up. Yeah, for sure.
Among other things.
Yeah. Well, okay. So, tell me a little bit about like because you said that you guys are headed towards 501c territory, artist-run space, and now you share the load of programming with a Gallery After Hours, which is Kim Garcia and Amy McKay, both very talented artists. One is an amazing painter. The other one does cool stuff with resin and also sculpture. So I've interviewed them. I kind of got a sense of their side of things. So we've already covered After Hours. So I want to maybe focus, since you are the other half of that contingent. Are you a solo DMST Atelier, or are you also a collab with like a 2-person collab?
We are a 2-person collab too. I would say 3 if you count my dog. Cloud's a big part of it.
Okay, well, I mean, if he can drywall.
I know. No, he's the charming one that brings people in. So no, I'll just provide a brief history.
Yeah.
So DMST Atelier, I call it DMST for short.
What does the DMST stand for?
It stands for Dream More, Stay True.
Okay.
And that was a saying that my partner and collaborator at DMST.
Romantic partner as well?
Romantic partner as well.
Okay.
Partner in many things.
And you guys don't hate each other after working together on, because I used to have a co-host, and we're no friends. We're not friends anymore, but we're acquaintances now.
I give most of the credit to Moon. His name's Marantz Moon. Everyone calls him Moon, for that, because I think he's patient and able to deal.
So you're the manic one?
Yeah, exactly. So I give all the credit to him that we've survived through all of this.
Okay.
But he actually lived right around our old gallery in downtown. It was at basically 7th and Central. And there was a commercial space up for lease, like I would say it was like in the middle of the pandemic. And he wanted to have a studio. And so he got the studio space, and that was in like April of 2021. And in June of 2021, he wanted to have an open studio. My brother was in town. That location was kind of at the nexus of many neighborhoods. It was the Arts District, you're at Artist Craftsman, the Row, really fancy shopping area, produce market, flower market, and Skid Row. Kind of like
are Flower Market and Skid Row. I mean, now I realize my question is dumb, but to finish the question is like any art related stuff. When I heard Flower, then I heard Skid Row, and I was like, okay, no, it's just the nexus of all these neighborhoods. It's not, because the arts district is obviously an arts district.
Yeah. But there's this kind of no man land where all of that meets, and that's where our space was.
Okay.
And so, you know, we had a lot of people we knew in the community that didn't have a home or lived in the supportive housing that's around that area. And so as part of that open studio, my brother and I organized what we eventually were told was a community feed. Mm-hmm. So we were barbecuing on the street, and like a huge line formed, and we really didn't like realize that was going to happen. And it was a really big success, combining art and food. And it wasn't necessarily artists that you guys were feeding. It was like members of the community, it sounds like. Yeah, it was our community. It was some artists, but it was a lot of folks that were our neighbors. Yeah. And that became kind of like a foundational thing about our space was, you know, I come at art from kind of an outsider perspective. I didn't go to school for art. And Moon is from Chicago and had actually just moved to Los Angeles when we opened up this space. So both of us were we're both a bit outsiders in the LA art world. And so, which is probably healthy because no expectations. Yeah. And you wouldn't have gotten into it. Yeah. I get to keep my art life like pretty, precious isn't the right word, but like pretty pure. Yeah. Separated like a good side dish on its own plate. Yeah, exactly. But we were trying to build community. So we didn't have a big arts community, but we really wanted one. And I think because of where I came to art from, I really think it's important to create access in art, and that like everyone can do art. Yeah. I don't want people to look inside of a gallery and think, oh, I could never do that. Like, I really try to plant the seed a lot that everyone can do art. Yeah. That model of like doing the community feeds is interesting because it seems like if you're inviting the people of the unhoused people of your community to eat, I wonder what that does to the space as like to anti-gentrify proof it. You know what I mean? Like in the sense that usually these art spaces will move into these neighborhoods and they'll be like separate. And I think that that's what gives the neighborhood gentrification thing a cycle. Mm-hmm. But if you're feeding the community, that might be an interesting way to see. Now it's not, I mean, in West Adams, it's not as big of an issue, you know, like, because that area is, or Mid-City, I guess is what you said. It's clearly like a different, I mean, I've been to both locations and I'm like, okay, yeah, it is a different environment. But like, I guess what I'm saying is that in Mid-City, you're not gentrifying. Yeah, you know, I think it's already been gentrified. I think gentrification, well, a couple of things. You nailed that. You know, I think it's more of a question for me, how gentrification is going to happen. And I am really curious about how you can be responsible. Yeah, and mitigate the acceleration. Yeah. And you know, our location's very different. 7th and Central, nexus of all these places. Washington, Mid-City area, really nice little commercial area. There's a Pilates place that just opened across the way. But there's also still a pretty... Damn, I Miss Paris. Damn, I Miss Paris. There's a bar there that's pretty cozy. Oh, on Adams, yeah. It's very cool, but that name is awful. Yeah, I want to go there. I have noticed that, but yeah, it's a neighborhood that is gentrification is fully underway. And although that bar was a large Black community was frequenting it. Yeah. Yeah. So there's still that, right? Yeah. A lot of the people who've lived there are walking down the street have been there for 50 years.
Yeah.
So there's still a really strong community of folks that have been there for a long time. And so while our downtown location was very different, I think there's still definitely some work to do and consider in how we as the art world show up in it, especially in I think a space that though we don't really I guess claim gallerist or like gallery all the time, that we show up and look like a gallery in a lot of ways. And so when we moved, which I think is an interesting collaboration with the housing developer that we could talk about, but there we definitely had to kind of reorient what it meant to be DMST, right? And
in what sense?
Because our foundation was, let's create these opportunities to see art and also make art. We did like street activations downtown. We came up with programming that allowed folks walking by to participate in art making, community art making. But there was also like a serious need, right? The population around us really appreciated having the community feeds. There was that lingo. We learned that from the population that came that day. They're like, oh, it's a community feed. We're like, we got a name, right?
But it's like a mutual aid activity, right?
Totally.
So that you don't see a lot of spaces in it making that part of their programming. I think that probably comes a little bit from what you were hinting at, is the work that you do in your work life.
Yeah.
You work in affordable housing.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about that and how that ethos translates into what you're doing.
Yeah. I mean, I think for the space, I come from a family of urban planners. I didn't go to urban planning school, but I think I really love to think about how to activate a streetscape and what that looks like. And I am very curious in how neighborhoods can develop when responsible tenants and developers and owners of buildings collaborate together. I think I had some experiences I worked for an affordable housing developer, met a housing corporation, and had a couple of experiences where I realized that you can leverage an affordable housing development budget, lots of money going into it, to try to invest into the community as well, if you choose to. And Washington Crossing, which is where DMST is now, is a really beautiful example of that. That's actually owned by Meta Housing Corporation. And when we lost our place downtown, a mentor of mine, they were just opening up that building, it's new construction, reached out to me and said, hey, we made promises to the community that we were going to fill this space with some type of art purpose. And to no fault of their own, affordable housing is very difficult. They were about to be done with construction. We're like, we don't have a place. So they reached out to us and basically offered up the space for free to activate a space, make right on their promise to the community. And it's also an amazing case study as to kind of what owners and developers can do if they offer up to spaces to like social serving organizations.
All the shit that I thought happened a lot out here when I moved to the liberal mecca that is California, and then I realized like, oh no, it's all Democrats, but they're really Republicans, just
like fiscally conservative.
And socially too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, and right, corporations are. So even if someone who works at, a corporation, it might be liberal, corporations are conservative.
Yeah. I mean, there's the I don't disagree with that. I think what's interesting is that when you get up to the top levels, then all the Democrats become corporatists too, right? Like not at the local level. That's Chris Hedges kind of breaks up the Democrats and the Republicans into corporatists and oligarchs, and the corporatists want stability, and that oligarchs benefit from chaos, and that is an interesting way of looking at the last election, right? But we don't have to talk about that directly. but no, the idea of corporatists out here is they're very much like, I mean, they want us to be at work when we're not at work anymore. So that is not, at least not what I grew up as thinking of leftist, you know, like the whole point of the 40-hour work week that people fought for is so that when you left work, you weren't at work. And now the surveillance mechanism is really frightening. So tell me a little bit. I mean, if you have something to comment on that, please go ahead. But I'm trying to get away from the political stuff.
Well, I'll bring it back for us, which I was going to say is like, I think that's where meditating on community and community building is really important, because it's so easy to, I mean, it's really difficult to get out of that cycle. So I guess that's all I had to say about that. But it's a large part of what we think about in our programming, and it's actually what we care about more than, you know, putting together art shows is, you know, if I'm measuring our success as a space, it's not based on momentum in the art world. It's, have we been respectful and have we listened to the neighbors around us? And luckily, because we don't have to pay rent, we get to make decisions that folks otherwise might not get to make. Especially in the kind of programming you can do. I do want to get to your art practice. I usually start with that stuff, but this is kind of interesting, and I'm always constantly trying to, because we don't learn this stuff in school, which I think is kind of crazy. But like, you know, to go to 6 years of school and not learn about the art business at all seems like a bit strange to me. Once you're out of that academic world and you're not like gunning for one of the few jobs in that space, and like you're not a part of it, it just all seems kind of like intentionally toxic. But you guys have a residency as well, so that's also it speaks to the service to the community stuff that you were talking about. I find, and this is a benefit to you guys, and this is why I vibe with you guys. First of all, I vibe with you guys because I like him and Amy McKay. I've known them they're great.
Peripherally somehow for a while, so any good recommendation. I know who they work with. I see the overlaps of communities, of art communities, right? Because the art world is like a bunch of different disparate communities, and I see who they interact with, and I think that that's why I have a lot of faith in the programming that you're doing, because I find a lot of these artist-run situations are about being gatekeepers, and it doesn't feel that way for you guys. I feel like there's a lot of there's different models. I'm not going to say that Durden and Ray is necessarily gatekeeper. They got 20 members, you know, but there's a lot of that sort of like elevating yourself by giving people opportunity, which to some degree I'm guilty of as well. But I think that there's something to the way that you guys are doing it that feels a lot more honest. I think with the community feeds, it's not an exclusivity thing, it's a community thing. And I think that's really cool. Tell me a little bit about the residency and how that factors in, because you guys, it's sort of a new thing. You didn't do it at the old space, right?
Yeah. So, you know, we went from, our old space was like 400 square feet, and our new space was 1,000 square foot gallery
with windows.
Like it's with central air.
You can, and the like what's it called, the plugs on the floor, it's like a legit space. Yeah It's designed for this.
I would say we put some work into it, but it not the electrical work. And then across, so it's in 2 buildings, same project but 2 buildings, and across the street we have 2 700 square foot studio spaces that we run as an artist residency program, and then like a back office, which is clearly very important if you have a gallery. But we also want to activate in different ways. The residency space, because we went from such a small space to a big space, for the first year, we just did an invite only residency program. We reached out to folks that we knew in our community, that we knew cared about kind of our mission and what we were doing in the space, just to keep it activated. The first 2 artists were Andy Castillo. She had an amazing show with Will Zhang at the end of her residency, and then Shalandria Hushen, who also had a solo show at the end of hers. She was more of like a social practice artist. Andy is more kind of classic painter. And then right now we have Renee Reisman and Joseph Sherman.
And then also your current show is John Plipchuk and Reinhardt. What's his last name?
Selvik. Yeah, that opened up on Saturday. It'll be open through December 20th.
I got a Reinhardt Selvik story, but I'm gonna wait until I interview Liz.
Yeah, I can't wait. They're also wonderful. I say Liz is like the secret MVP behind everything. Like she's really
been somehow in my algorithm for a while, and I didn't know how I was connected to her, and now I know.
She's a part of that
UCI group.
Yeah.
But there it is, those little contingents, right? Like,
yeah, we're definitely swimming in the UCI pool, but I think
my job is to get someone from the UCI pool to give me a list of people, to get a group from here, and then just shuffle them.
Yeah, I know. But to that group's credit, Kim, Amy, Liz,
Lauren,
Cara, yeah. I feel very lucky to have met them, and I also think that they have a magnetism to them that allows for other folks to come into. They're really growing their community.
Well, what's it called? I mean, Lauren, when I had her on the show, I had her partner, fiance on as well, and then I had her on it, and her episode was huge, and I was like, who the fuck are you?
Yeah.
It's always funny when that happens. You're like, oh my God, this person that I've been talking to for years has mega clout,
Yeah.
Because I don't book people based on that, but then sometimes you get surprised, and you're like, oh shit.
Yeah.
I need to give you put some spect on your name.
I also love her work.
I mean, that's probably why. She's super fucking talented.
Yeah.
And then you're also a paper maker too, so I can see the paper maker jealousy that would happen.
Yeah.
Our
just
jealousy.
Just respect.
It's fair to be jealous.
I just respect her.
As long as it's not toxic jealousy.
That's how I keep my art.
Well, tell me about
my art life pure. Let me finish the residency.
Oh, sorry.
The residency. I just want to say that we're for this next round. It'll be the first time we open it up.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna do a request for applications, and it will start in March. So we're working with. We actually, because we're not a 501c3 yet, we partnered with our collaborator Lenore French. She runs Transformation Arts. And we're kind of developing the program for the residency right now, but it is going to have some type of social practice lean. And I'm actually really excited. I have a big question in my head of what is a social practice. I think that word gets thrown around a lot now. And I'm excited to see what people come to the table with, because I think it can be expansive.
Do you know, Pranay Reddy from LA Artcore? I should connect you guys. His whole thing is that his social practice, or he describes himself as a secondary support system to artists.
Yeah.
So that's his practice. He's an interesting guy. The LA Artcore was awesome. They were like he basically kind of took it over when the previous person died, and revamped the whole thing.
Yeah.
I think one of the things that he did is what you guys do, which is 8 shows a year as opposed to like one every month.
Yeah.
I was telling you my regiment, and I'm like, sometimes I sound douchey because like I'll be bragging about somebody's thing. Like, for example, with Anshi from Apoko, our collective, I'm like impressed with her output because she's just one person doing it herself.
Yeah.
But I'll try to brag about it, and I'll be like, she does a show once a week, and then I feel like I'm like big brothering her by like flexing that I'm doing it when I intend to actually say what they do, but I'm like so burdened by my own shit that I can't get out of it. But I mean, it's so hard to find the balance when you have one of these projects that is just like, it's not profitable. You lose money on it, and you do it because you're lonely.
Yeah, totally. Loneliness is, but now, I feel less lonely now. So now I'm kind of like, okay, where to go from here?
Yeah.
Which I think is a beautiful problem to have. But I would love anyone who is considering what a social practice is and how they fit into that. I'd love to have a conversation with them.
Yeah, I'll send you his episode, not as homework, but just so that you know what's up with him.
I'm down for some homework too.
Okay. I'm not a professor, so it's my rare opportunity. Yeah. I give homework every week when I say like and subscribe.
Yeah, totally.
All right, so tell me about your practice. The way that I like to frame this is I usually go with your earliest memory of messing with art.
Ooh.
And then take me to the moment where you realized you couldn't stop yourself from making art because you'd be sad if you did.
Amen. Well, I was a very serious athlete growing up. I was like basketball, soccer, lacrosse all the time. And really, because of that kind of identity, never considered myself an artist until I was in my mid-20s.
Wow.
And had gone through like an identity crisis from not being able to play basketball anymore, kind of unfolding from that. And then
did you have ambitions to play like semi-pro or pro?
Well, I got a full ride to play in college, Division I. That was like my
Where did
dream.
you go?
At Seattle U.
Okay.
And then I transferred down through many injuries, tore my ACL 3 times. I transferred down to Claremont McKenna in SoCal. So that's how.
And that's also D1 or
D3.
D3. Okay.
So it was during that time that like I started my long identity crisis of, I'm not going to play basketball. Definitely wanted to go on at least to play overseas. My childhood dream was definitely to play in the WNBA. And luckily I was exposed to
How
that.
long has that league been around?
That came, there was a professional women's team before the WNBA called the ABL, which I'm lucky enough, my mom really supported my interests. So I would go to the ABL when I was like 6. And then right when I was like, maybe I might be wrong here, but like 7 or 8, the WNBA formed, or at least the Seattle Storm formed. And so that was my dream, to play professional basketball. Anyway, go through this identity crisis. But in doing that, I think what I realized was that that was my first expression, like artistic, creative expression. I think sports, especially team sports like basketball, is kind of like dance. It's akin to dance. You have choreography, but it's also spontaneous. So it's kind of like performance art, right? And there's patterns that you pick up on. It's very strategic. And so I think in kind of doing the work I needed to do to find myself anew, I realized that creative expression was honestly like vital to my existence, my healthy existence at least. And that's when I was lucky enough to meet a few folks that were artists that I could, basically look up to in understanding kind of the role of art in my life. And
what did you end up studying in school if you didn't do art?
Accounting, econ.
Oh, okay. So you're better than all of us.
I got lucky. I think I got really lucky. And I always say this, like, I really didn't know who I was at that moment, but I listened to my mom, and my mom was very smart. And so while I didn't know what I was doing, I just was like, okay, I'm going to listen to my mom. Yeah.
No, that's crazy. That's intense. I used to coach club soccer for like 5 years. So I've there's like a new thing. This is a bit of a side tangent that like private equity is buying all these hockey rinks. And now you have to play in a private equity hockey rink, and they will not let you videotape your kids because they want you to pay for a subscription service like a Netflix. And it's like, oh my God, you can just literally hollow it. All of that sports, all of those, like, you maybe didn't notice, but all of that shit is so unregulated. I have never been in a more corrupt business than in soccer club coaching. It's insane. So I wonder what, like, I don't think that the students ever get exposed to that because it's really well hidden, but like it is like one of the most competitive. I used to work in sales. It was less competitive.
Yeah.
And in all of that. So the intensity of youth sports and like to be competitive.
Yeah.
So did you do club basketball?
Yeah, but I think I got lucky because I think that...
Because you were good and you got to be on good teams.
Also that.
That's the difference. You have a team made up of all noobs that is a, what's it called? Development team, and they're losing 4-0. Parents start freaking out.
Yeah.
It's like crazy.
Well, I think like that industry has really grown kind of exponentially. So I think I kind of feel like our generation is lucky in a lot of ways in how we straddle. I'm 34, and just how we get to straddle some things because it's really sped up. But I think, you know, for me, I was still playing 3 sports all the way through high school. And so I think that's very rare these days. People get really specialized because of this industry. And anyway, so
especially with soccer, they want you fucking training at the academies.
Yeah.
And it's crazy the expectations that parents have and don't realize the whole scope of things. Where it's like, you're not at the LA Galaxy, you know.
No,
youth teams.
And this isn't going to sound very nice, but you can usually look at your kid and figure out if they're going to go far or not. And so it's also kind of a little delusional, the money that gets poured into this. And I think sports is really important for building confidence. And so I appreciate that, especially in young girls. But I think it is kind of funny what gets invested into these kids that maybe could care less about it.
If we're talking about adults being at work all the time, imagine kids building their careers.
Sad.
Yeah, it's fucking brutal.
It's sad.
Oh my God. I've dated a couple parents recently, and I just don't know how to understand what they're going through with having to give their kid an iPhone and shit like that.
It's a lot of decisions.
The pressure of all of that stuff.
Yeah.
Anyway, so how did you get into papermaking?
Oh, it's been a windy path, which I'm proud of. When I first started making art, I was painting. I think mainly because it was accessible. There was an artist craftsman. I used to live in Mid-City. There was one on La Cienega that I really liked. It closed down. And I just walked there and I got some paints and paper. And so that was kind of like my gateway. And at some point along the way, I got into cyanotype printmaking. And so I'd waffle in between those. Just experimenting. Sometimes I look back and I'm kind of like embarrassed at all the stuff I was doing, and like kind of confidently so, you know.
Cyanotype is very hard to transcend.
Yeah. I love it though. I love what cyanotype represents. And
there's a dude, Felix Quintana, that I've invited on the show. He hasn't responded, but it's not a beef thing. It's just I think he's just not interested in being on podcast, which is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
He's like literally the only person I know that I'm like, oh yeah, you're actually doing something interesting with this.
Yeah.
I think it's like it kind of falls into that category of like accessibility.
Yeah.
Creating an overabundance, you know, like not that amateur stuff doesn't end up becoming an aesthetic like it does in photography and stuff, but I think that I've just seen so many cyanotypes of just like putting leaves on stuff that like, you know, the cliches, I guess, is what they build up. So it's really hard to break out of that.
Yeah.
As
a
serious,
like non-crafty.
Or not even, I don't even have a problem with it being crafty. It's just, it's hard for me to be like, oh, that's a composition. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, as opposed to like an experiment or something like that.
Yeah.
When I see that, that's why I say Quintana's like, that dude, he puts together like images, you know? So that's just a personal preference though. I'm not hating on anybody.
Yeah. Oh, how did I find papermaking? You know, I did a class called The Language of Making, which was honestly like my first real kind of like conceptual work at being an artist, I guess. And
I got that shit drilled into me to the point where I couldn't make art for 4 years afterwards. So.
Yeah, and it was important because at the end of it, we had to do these presentations, and I put all the art that I'd done together, and I was like, "What was that? What am I doing?" And at that point, I was like, for myself, I'm not going to do any painting anymore because I just need to give my brain a rest, and I need to focus on one thing. So I'm like, I'm gonna do cyanotype printmaking, and very quickly I tricked myself into wanting to make paper. So went away from cyanotype immediately, so I'd been thinking about making paper for a long time. It honestly was born out of collecting all these like junk mail and all of this paper that you're just like, why am I getting this? And so we had an AC unit outside of our studio that had a bunch of like condensate coming out of it, and I was capturing it, and I just put the mail in there. And so
so your first paper making was the junk mail?
Oh yeah,
I've done work with junk mail too.
All of my paper making is just upcycled paper. So
can you believe that with all the shit talk they have about the environment and climate change, that shit has never shown any sign of dropping? The amount of fucking mailers, the amount of electricity, like everybody, like it to me it seems like what can I even do?
I know, and it kind of makes me think if one day like that won't be the case, you know, and then this will be this like
well, it's archaic. Like the penny, you know, like we've been bitching about the penny and they're finally getting rid of it, but they're also getting rid of all of cash. And it's like, oh, no, that's not what I wanted. I just didn't want to fucking everything to be $99.99.
Yeah. It is like I'm like engaging in this like archaic thing. Like I'm taking these things that are like not useful for anybody.
Yeah.
I'm like,
especially when they expire, right? Yeah. Like those things have a shelf. Trust me, I've pondered junk mail for a lot. I collected them. I used to have a door that would that had like a mail slot. So every day the mailman would just litter my house. I would get so frustrated.
I know. And even if you select paperless, somehow you still get a bunch of stuff. So it's silly. But we just started collecting that paper, and I'd put it in that water. So it was kind of just like probably like a neuroses or something of like, we're wasting all this water and all this paper is coming. And so I just started experimenting with that. In April 2024, my dad passed away. And this is, I think, a lot of what was in the show that I had with Kim. And he passed away pretty suddenly and like kind of unexpectedly.
Heart attack as well. My dad died in 23. So I feel your pain.
Yeah. And I think, you know, when he died, I felt like I was kind of like left to pick up the pieces and, you know, even just try to like understand someone who maybe wasn't great at expressing themselves. And as my brother and I were cleaning up his space, he would make these like daily notes that felt like the biggest insight into the person he was. Cause it's like, a lot of it is like, you kind of have this idea in your head of like, this person passes away and you want to like, I don't know, I wanted to discover something like great or profound about him that I didn't know. And instead you find these like daily notes that have these things that are very reminiscent of him and make you smile. And it's also just like a lot of day-to-day BS, right? The same thing we do. I make a list every day. I'm a lister. But when he passed away, that felt like the most precious thing that I could hold on to of him. And I knew it was kind of crazy, you know? But I also think those daily notes made me feel like I was like living it with him. And so I decided that just really not as like a presentation of my art, but as kind of a grieving process, I would take that paper and make it into art as a way to kind of keep my mourning present and like fluid. And so I'd collected a lot of papers of his, and kind of as I went through the paper making process, I used his paper along with my junk mail, which I think is kind of funny because I think they're kind of akin to each other, right? You get this like junk mail every day, and then you also have these like daily lists, and like there might be like one gem in between a lot of like daily stuff, right? And I just think, and it also felt like, you know, I was bringing my junk mail to the table, and I was bringing actually his bills too. It wasn't just all daily schedules. And there was this kind of like combining of that paper, right? And it's kind of like bringing the both of us to the present with this paper that we have. And so, you know, I started practicing without his stuff because I felt very precious about his papers. But, you know, once I felt like I'd kind of like figured out how to make paper and like what I wanted to do, I started working with his paper. And
so the paper is recent? It's
it's within the last year.
Oh wow, okay.
Or a year and a half. Yeah, about a year. Yeah. But I started making like what I was calling like homemade cyanotype paper. Usually you're brushing the cyanotype solution on, and instead I would make paper that had been made in that cyanotype solution. And so there was like a bit of a transition in that way. But I think that's maybe like where you find me, which is that I have not been a visual making artist for that long, and I did.
When did you start?
2018. Yeah. And all the while,
you're not that much of a noob. I mean,
all the while working on doing affordable housing development and working on the gallery, just like still in discovery.
The credentials that people get are bullshit to become an artist. So I think you're already doing more than most people in an 8-year span. I mean, you've got a space and stuff that you've been doing for a while. So
yeah, I think it's about reps though. Like I think there's like some reps.
You're doing this like an athlete, not like an artist.
Maybe that's a good thing.
Yeah. I don't know. No, that's interesting. And then I saw there was one piece that was denim.
Yeah, it's canvas. It was canvas, cyanotype treated canvas.
Oh, okay. It wasn't denim.
Yeah. But most people thought it was denim.
Yeah.
And so that was like the last piece I made actually before I started making paper. So you can kind of see that transition. But I've gone through an embarrassing amount of like materials and methods. And so I've really accepted that I'm kind of a mixed media artist. But a lot of my process, this like deconstruction, reconstruction, maybe like 2 or 3 times in each piece, is consistent across everything I've done. So there's a process that's pretty consistent, but the material, it has changed drastically. I will say that I feel like in paper making, I've found a pretty long runway. And I'm really excited about kind of where I get to go from here.
And honestly, if I hadn't met Lauren, I would not know all the potential there is for paper making and how beautiful it is.
Her like thick pieces she makes are just, I mean, amazing.
No, and I'm interested to see where she goes with it. But paper making is an interesting, like, it's interesting to see it become its own form, especially in artists like Lauren and stuff. I respect that kind of process. It is so it's like it's deconstructive in the way that my professors would have loved back when deconstructing everything till you fucking didn't want to make art anymore was like the way that they taught you. But it also is like a craft, it's so it straddles this line of like a craft object or utilitarian object that you might draw on becoming the actual event, right? Because you're not necessarily that. I mean, sometimes some of the stuff has. It's more about how it's arranged, right? Like some of the paper is broken up. You know, and in the way that I'm trying to remember exactly what the pieces look like, but
there's the paper making, like the process is obviously a very important part of the work, I think, in a way that sometimes other works are not, or other processes, other outputs are not. And I think especially for me, some of the work that I'm doing is about repair and kind of showing that repair to people as I think as a way of like acknowledging and bringing that pain to light, right? And so, in my pieces, you'll see like rips in the paper that are sewn, kind of like hastily sewn back together. And I think that part of the work is really important. I think, and that's the deconstruction, reconstruction. To me, I think it's like a parallel to like life, essentially, right? Like there's these waves, and you do sometimes have to like put your life back together. And
do you have any major influences? The thing that's you don't have any, before you answer that question, you don't look back on anything before basketball, like as a kid, and you're like, oh, I came back to it.
I took a photography class in high school, and I loved that. And I was kind of obsessed with it in a way that I didn't even want to tell people.
But not even like as a little kid drawing and stuff like that? No.
And honestly, I have some shame about this, but you wouldn't want me to draw something for you.
Oh, no.
That's not where I come at from.
I can't draw like that anymore.
Yeah.
You need to keep that shit up.
Yeah.
I keep that there so I remember I used to be able to draw hands.
Yeah. Well, and I guess I say that like tongue in cheek about shame, but I think to me it kind of goes back to the access that we're creating at the space. I don't want there ever to be barriers to entry to anyone thinking they can be an artist, and I'm okay being an example of that, right?
Yeah.
I don't want to stop anyone from making art if they think they can't make something hyper realistic or realistic, because to me that process of engaging in making is so important. And I do like that sometimes my art, my partner Moon would disagree with me, but sometimes it doesn't have a lot of technical aspects to it.
But that's the postmodern shit, right?
Yeah.
You could draw ugly and maybe they're beautiful.
Totally.
Yeah.
Right. And I always want to meditate on that, because I think everyone needs to be, maybe not us artists need to know that. Maybe we've learned that, right? But I think a lot of people still need to learn that they can make art.
Yeah. I think that it's interesting that the thing with, okay, so I started the podcast because I didn't want to go to grad school, because I was just at that point, I was like, you want how much money? Fuck you. It felt like a debt prison more than an education. And it also felt like I was going to be deconstructed. And they literally said, like, we're going to tear you down and build you up. And I'm like, that sounds like a cult, like that sounds like in other situations, that's not an appropriate way of interacting with a mentor, right?
Yeah.
Where they're like going to, like, whatever, if I'm a fucking monk, okay, maybe. But the monastic level of artistry, I don't even trust. I think that I had the realization that I could just interview the teachers and build relationships with them. And now if I need a studio visit, I can hit someone up. Or if I need a technical advice, I can hit someone up and be like, hey, how do you do this?
Yeah.
But I think that one of the things that happens to artists, and this is not to throw shade, but I think that backing up your sentiment that you don't necessarily have to have all these credentials, because I used to have a chip on my shoulder or an insecurity about not having
or
an MF.
skills, credentials or skills.
Well, you have skills. I mean, you make paper.
I show up and try, right? Like, yeah, I figure it out.
I mean, I think that you're getting into your imposter syndrome.
Okay.
I think that it reads as art. I don't think that anybody, when I look at it, I didn't even know until you just told me today that you didn't have an education. So it's not ignorant work.
Yeah.
It's
not just imposter though. It's like, yeah. Anyway.
Well. No. I mean, I this is totally valid, and I don't mean to shut you down for how you feel about it, but I don't care.
Yeah.
Like,
no, I think it's that I want it to be accessible, right? So it's like this morality that's like,
Look, I have artists come in here that have been through art school that are so nervous about saying that they want to make money. Like, what's his name? Hiroshi, Hiroshi Clark. Mm-hmm. Huge, like, really good friend, supports the show, like, financially. He's a donor, so I want to make sure that I put respect on his name. Mm-hmm. But he was on the show and he was telling me about his project that's the Artifacts, which is the documenting of artwork, and he was timid about it. So everybody's got their own fucking hangups. If you went to school, you would feel bad about making money.
Yeah. Totally.
Like, and this idea that it's not an indoctrination, like, I mean, I could get really into depth about how art school is indoctrinating into, I almost think, like, if you look at, like, the Jackson Pollock shit, where the CIA was the CIA was promoting him, was promoting, and she's proud of it. What's the feminist that got in trouble during the Bernie Sanders campaign for saying that the women were following the Bernie bros?
I don't know.
She's one of the biggest names. Anyway, even Susan Sontag, all of these people, all of these academics are heavily influenced, and like the whole system is structured and heavily structured in the sense of this like debt trap, right? Where we're like, there's artists, and I want to acknowledge there's artists like Kayla Mattis who went to UC Santa Cruz or Santa Barbara, I forget which one, and had a full ride. So like if you can get a full ride, that's fine. But if you're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars into debt to become a fucking artist, like that seems to me like a very beneficial thing for the power structure that doesn't want any art that's actually going to be of consequence,
Yeah, it makes me think about actually with Kim, we've been talking, and I think she and Amy had this idea a while ago, but this idea of alternative schools and how we even as the space DMST can invest in something like that, or at least invest in our curiosity about it, right? Yeah. Like how do we kind of like reframe our relationship to institutions?
I was talking to Kim at the show. She's a badass because she does not shy away from that. She wants to. She's a professor. She wants to be a successful artist, and she actually tries to teach her students. An adjunct. Imagine an adjunct trying to teach your students about how the art business works.
Yeah.
And part of it is you have to go figure it out because she went to school and no one taught her. Yeah. So I think that is one of the most admirable things of anybody.
Like life skills of artists.
Life skills.
Like life skills class for artists.
Before I went to art school, I read a book called The Business of Being an Artist. And it was a really interesting read because to some degree, I think that like as prestigious and highfalutin all these academic principles that you learn in school there's a ton of artists that would be classified as like not premier artists that make a perfectly good living just by selling their little wares, and they'll go to openings and they make like, that's what I like, that book, The Business of Being an Artist. I wonder if it's up there. I read it like when I was like in my teens, and it was such an interesting breakdown of like all the different ways. And then I went to school and none of that got addressed.
Yeah.
All that we got from the academic system was this hierarchy. And now the art world is going into this place where it's not hierarchical. And I'm like, well, then what the fuck was my education about?
Yeah.
It's just so crazy. Anyway, if anything, if you're listening now and you're insecure about all this shit, the baggage that art school comes with, the debt that art school comes with, like I don't endorse it anymore.
Yeah.
And that's not a slight on my friends who need to teach and stuff and have a job. Like, but I think that is like, it's a really, really crazy business that I can't get over. 6 years, you go to 6 years. What other education do you go to 6 years of? And then you come out and, and I'm not the only one. There was a article on Hyperallergic about this stuff, like the fine print, So
I think that the only thing I'll say, and this comes from like being on the outside looking in of that is, and it's some stuff we're trying to create at DMST, is I think there's still a really important need for discourse about your art, about art concepts. And I think that we're just starting to see opportunities for that outside of institutions, but I think we need more of that. And I think like to develop as an artist, you do need that ping pong.
That's why
response.
I have the podcast.
Yeah, exactly.
I supplement that. I'm not saying that that's not important. I totally agree with you. And I think the reality is that what's surprising to a lot of people is that they graduate school and then they probably don't talk about, like who was talking theory at Reinhardt's opening?
Yeah.
Nobody.
Yeah.
Because that's a dick thing to do.
Yeah.
Imagine I start pressing Reinhardt on his fucking philosophy. I'm like, no, I'm here to party.
Oh, I tried to a couple of times and we got distracted. So it's just not possible.
It's just not the place for it. Maybe at the artist talk with a Q&A, that's where you do that. But I think that's like, that was a realization after school. I was like, oh, the only thing I get is good feedback. After years of being in a fucking system that only told me my artwork was shit, you get out there, people are actually really nice.
Yeah. And then you're like, is it? Do I trust them? No, I'm just kidding.
Anyway, I just want to dispel you of any baggage you have in terms of like your qualifications to do this. I will tell you this, okay? I just interviewed Ever from Charlie James.
Yeah.
No art education.
Yeah.
And she's a kingmaker.
Yeah, totally.
So think of yourself
Absolutely.
like that, you know?
Totally. I'm getting there. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I don't want to rush you to it, but I'm just saying that like what you do is valid. And I'm having you on because I respect it.
Yeah.
I think it's a labor of love. And I think that the approach of like, you know, like I think that the academic system teaches a kind of greed that you did not pick up by not being there. Not that Amy McKay and all of them are part of that, but I think that to some degree you have to shed that.
Yeah.
You know,
you have to make that choice too.
Yeah, you have to make that choice, and it's just easier to not shed it because you've never had it in you. You know, I feel like what you're doing in taking your stuff from I think that a lot of artists talk about privilege as a concept. And I think that they don't necessarily understand how their interactions with the world, especially like, you know, in the artist run space, there's a lot of like, there's a lack of acknowledgement. You know, like for me, it's like, okay, if the art world is run entirely by white people, and then the artists get opportunity based on that, then like why replicate it at an artist run space? That same situation where white people are the gatekeepers and all of that.
Yeah.
You know, so
and where conversations, I think something we're really aware of is where I think if you know something really well, you can say it in a way that allows everyone to understand. And I think sometimes the conversations become so overly academic that only a certain few can understand it. And so maybe people don't even understand that they're already becoming like creating barriers to entry to understanding to people who might, you know, be able to understand it if they were able to like simplify the language. Yeah. You know, so
yeah.
I think that's really like thinking about how you communicate is really important.
No, I agree with that 100%. And I think that that's one of the better compliments I've gotten. I did an artist talk with Don't Look Projects, and then somebody that was like affiliated with the gallery was like, oh, because I had sent them, when I do a live one in an artist talk, I always have the questions ready so that so we don't just fucking brain fart.
Yeah. Go off the rails one way or another.
Or just blank and be like, I don't know what to ask you. But what the compliment that I got is like, oh, the questions were very academic and professional, but the delivery of them was much more accessible. And I think that that's also one of those things. Like, I think that like the academic system, and not that this is like conspiratorial, I just think that this is how it developed, right? Like, I don't think there was a time where you didn't need an MFA to teach, you know, but as more people got MFAs and all of that, but I think what it does is it cuts off the art world from the rest of the world and makes it somewhat irrelevant. Yeah. You know, if artists are taught from their institutions that they can't make money, or that to make money is selling out, like what the fuck is that? Like who is that like for, you know? And how does that it's almost like it's like Catholic guilt. You know, it's almost like you're not good unless you're an artist that does these specific things. To me, that's insane, you know? Yeah. Like it, and I think that there is a huge detriment to that. And plus, like, all these people get these educations and they're really proud of it because they invested so much money on it. You have to fucking, like, you're still in debt. And I think that, like, maybe it would be healthier if they could let go of that shit, because a lot of that shit is just theory and it doesn't actually apply to, like, you know, the idea of post-colonialism. What a fucking scam that was. You know, literally colonialism was happening even before everything, you know, and all of that is like, it's just high-minded bullshit that doesn't feed people like a community space. So anyway, sorry for that little tangent at the end, but I do struggle with this, you know, like, because imagine if my criteria for getting people onto the podcast was you have to have an MFA. How boring would this show be? Yeah, and I think, like, I actually question, I love word of mouth and I love the net and I love how that grows, and I do always want to be aware of how that is growing, because at some point you always have a bubble, right? And so, like, thinking about how you always look beyond that bubble, I think, is important, right? Just to make sure that you haven't gotten, like, comfortable
in your space. And I think maybe that's a responsibility if you're trying to, create access, and just being aware of that, I think, is important. So
yeah. Well, one of the things that I like about doing the show is that thing where I can see how the communities connect.
Yeah, you get to see a lot of different.
And I'm always like, I'm literally always like, who do you know? Because I want to know where you fit in, what your community is.
Yeah.
It informs me a lot. Like if I know that you hang out with certain people that I know have like, questionable ethics, I don't necessarily immediately think like, oh, you're with that kind of shit. I could also be like, oh, you don't know yet. Yeah. It's not my job to tell you, but
I would love to see you make that web though. Like, I think there'd be a fun web of.
It's the guest list on the podcast. It literally is that. And if you listen to every episode, you could see how there's like a connects.
Visual. Yeah, you could. Yeah. I like visual webs. So.
But anything that I have not asked you about that you might want to get out. Specifically about DMST or your practice?
Yeah, I want to say, I feel like the question about when I realized art, like I couldn't live without it, I think it was kind of the first time I started painting. As I started working on pieces, I think kind of these unhealthy obsessions were able to be directed at this space of, my own creation. And I think that honestly changed my life, and it changed how I was relating to other people, and relating to my work. And I think
like more of a pep in your step.
No, just like healthy relationships, really. I think I'm a pretty intense and obsessive person. And I think having the right...
I have not picked up on that yet.
Yeah,
I haven't known you long enough.
I fake the chill pretty well. Yeah, ask Moon.
And this is the Reverend Sung Young Moon?
Yes.
Okay.
Might as well be. No, and I think, as I go through my practice, whatever I'm working on is always going to have some type of relation to what's going on in my life, right? Yeah. And I just feel like that's such a blessing. And again, I guess because I didn't come at it from a more formal setting, I think the most important thing for me is to have that as an expression, and that kind of takes away, I think, some of the like angst about making. And I just feel very grateful to have a practice that gives me a safe place to understand complicated things. No,
and you're doing great. I mean, I think that you're surrounding yourself with really good people. How did that come about? How did the collab? How did they pitch that?
Yeah.
And it's for people listening. We're talking in shorthand. When did Kim and Amy McKay's gallery After Hours reach out to DMST Atelier?
So we, I think it was Kim and Liz. We met them when we were at the Trist Art Fair, which is an art fair that the Torrance Art Museum puts on. And it's for
kind of a nightmare.
It's like
not a bad experience, but like it's just so overwhelming.
Oh, it's a very stimulating day.
Yeah.
Or a weekend. You have to recover for like 2 months.
Yeah.
Because I am not an extrovert. But it was the first year, I think, of the Trist Art Fair, and we got invited. It was 4 alternative art spaces. And up until then, all the time we were in downtown, it was still a pretty lonely experience. Like we were still
an island.
Yeah, and just like yelling, and like we were like, is anyone hearing us at all? Kind of feeling. And so when we went to the Trist Art Fair, we met all these people that we felt like were like truly our people. And that's actually where I met Kim and Liz, I think, the first time. And we really hit it off, and I think we just like stayed in touch. It probably took us a year for Kim and I to connect again. Mm-hmm. But I was sharing to her about our space, and also a bit about like the burnout that comes with it. Not, inheriting 1,000 square foot gallery and 2 residency programs and being like, I didn't want to be a gallerist, And so Kim actually reached out and said, hey, like I want to propose this idea to you. And I remember her being very prepared presenting it over Zoom, and I was like, yes, like we're not, I think we're especially not gatekeepers.
Handing off the baton, like, please take it.
Yeah. And it's so amazing. I really care about giving people opportunities, and also having to fill a full slate every year like, I did not want to do that. So, yeah, we're definitely not gatekeepers, Moon and I. I'd say sometimes we put on shows and we're like, man, we really didn't think about that. Like, like maybe we should have like a little higher criteria or whatever. But in the case of Gallery After Hours and Kim and Amy and that whole crew, we're just really grateful to have them as partners as we're developing what this is going to look like. We're kind of in progress.
I mean, that's a, like, if you have a job, running a gallery is a second job, and then you have an art practice. I trust me, I understand the burdens of fucking everything sucking.
Yeah, but also it's like a beautiful, delicate balance. Like if I didn't have one, I don't know.
No, I mean, I can't stop doing the podcast,
Yeah, it's
that's
so
quitting.
Generative too, though. Like,
what do you mean?
You get to have these conversations with so many different people.
Yeah. I think I maybe it was you or someone else that I was telling I just need to hire someone to help me, like, or maybe do an internship, because I don't necessarily have the money to hire someone.
Yeah.
But it's a lot of work. I think that if I could just do the conversations, this is the play the smallest violin for me, because I'm having fun and everything is good. But if I could have someone do all the AI automated stuff, even though it's AI automated, like having to do it is like mindless busy work.
Oh yeah.
And if I could just, like, posting on Instagram, that would be also nice to take it. If all I could do is show the fuck up and do these interviews, can you imagine how happy I would be?
I actually can, because I've lived through that in a different way. But the admin is real.
Yeah.
And it's overwhelming if you're doing it alone.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Well, cool. Anything that we can promote for you? Thank you so much for doing the show and sharing with your stuff. For someone that has imposter syndrome, you were very open about who you are, and I appreciate that. And I feel like that's why I felt the need to tell you, like, it's all bullshit. It's really not a big deal. You're already making stuff that you would make if you had a BFA.
Yeah, totally. And it's all fun. And I try to remember that. It's like, it's such a blessing to have an art practice. So,
do you know Christopher Reyes?
No.
Oh, he's one of Charlie's artists. He doesn't have a BFA even. He just went to community college.
Yeah.
And I think that, I mean, I would not tell you not to go to community college. I think facilities is a real thing. If you need facilities and you go to OCC or something like that, that's pretty cool. I didn't find that the facilities were that much better at my college, but I went to FIU. Yeah,
space.
So, yeah.
It's like, we could talk a long time about space, but there's lots of space and somehow we can't fill it. But, yeah.
Well, cool. So what's the next show at it's in the new year, right? Because you guys do 1.5 months.
We have some cool things coming up for this show. For Reinhardt and John's
this
show.
Is not going to come out in time for that because this comes out next year, but you can still plug them.
Yeah. Well, with every show, we do a community feed. So kind of the foundation with which we started DMST still exists. They're doing pizza on December 13th. John has a pizza oven. That's a really fancy community feed
Flip
for
truck
us.
Has a...
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't know exactly what's going to happen, but that'll be fun.
Yeah.
And then they're doing karaoke on the 20th. So you guys listening to this will miss that, but
I might make it. I might do some karaoke.
Yeah.
I might do my go-to is grab someone and do the Boys to Men It's So Hard to Say Goodbye duet.
That sounds amazing. And it'll be Christmas time. It'll be like a good karaoke Christmas time kind of vibe. And then in late January, we have Joseph Sherman, our current resident. His solo show is opening. So we're going to kind of shut down for the holidays and then we'll open back up in January. We're going to do some like community programming while the gallery is empty. Mm-hmm. So we try to do, we're working on a project where we engage the tenants of the housing to work on art to hang in the lobbies. And so we're going to work on some of the community programming that, again, is kind of like our main focus. And it's a big blessing to have partners to help on the gallery side so we can make sure we're kind of upholding the tenets of what we started this for.
Well, it's amazing how seriously you take the responsibility of being caretakers, caregivers of this opportunity you've been given. I mean, that's a nice space in a great location, and I'm excited to like continue to check you guys out. You know? It can be hard to find artist run spaces you vibe with because a lot of them are just little cliques.
Yeah, we'll keep growing. I don't know exactly where we're going, but we'll keep growing. So
cool. Well, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
All right, and if you guys enjoyed this episode, like and subscribe. We have comment if you have anything to comment on. Maybe push back a little bit on the value of an art education. Give me your thoughts and give them to me good. It won't hurt my feelings if we disagree on that. I can handle some criticism. Just don't call me fat. So sometimes that happens, and I'm like, oh wow, you're having a bad day, person.
It's a bummer.
Commenter, I'm like, I'm not that fat.
No.
And then if you really want to support us, and it really does make a huge difference, $5 a month gets you early access to our episodes, and it gets you on the patron scroll that is up right now on the screen. Thank you to all the people that support this effort. It makes me feel like someone cares.
We do. We care.
And then, we'll be back next week with another guest and another topic that may or may not be art related. Thank you so much, Frannie.
Yeah, thanks. Thanks, Javier.
Hemmelgarn?
Hemmelgarn.
Hemmelgarn. Bye.